All right, guys, welcome back to Harrison Talks Pod, episode 12. I'm going to stop introducing myself because the name of myself is in the podcast title, so we'll just cut that part out. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are enjoying your new year. And hey, no big intros, no guests this week. Let's just do our basketball talk. This is coming on a Tuesday afternoon or a very early Tuesday morning back home in America. Tuesday afternoon in sunny Thailand. I had to work this morning, so okay, we're gonna record a little bit late, but you still get this basketball content. Sit back and relax, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Okay, today let's see. We have to talk about why I was wrong about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Whenever I'm wrong, I have to come on here and say it. Uh, the run by the Thunder, in my case for SGA for MVP at this point. The Cavaliers' historic run, but, and perhaps unfortunately, this is the third week in a row I have to talk about Jimmy Butler. But let's see how long. Let's see if I can keep it, a bit shorter since it's the third week in a row that we're talking about this saga. And might be talking about it next week, depending on if there's any big news that percolates. So let's see. January 7th. Okay, last week we talked about how Pat Riley came out and denied any rumors from Shams or media or Twitter or anything else. We talked about how that's unique because Pat Riley doesn't usually talk too much, and this is the first time, at least recently, that I can remember of any owner, franchise, front office person coming out and denying rumors. But were they rumors? Now we don't know. So Jimmy Butler played against the Pacers on Thursday, sat out the entire fourth quarter, scored 9 points in the loss, and also scored 9 points in the Pelicans in the previous game, which they won. For timeline, before that, December 10th, Butler was out with illness at this point. On December 10th, Shams reported that the Heat were listening to offers on Jimmy Butler, which was quickly denied by his agent, which was very unique at the time because, you know, if you like or hate what Shams does for a living, he has a pretty clean track record, I believe. After Jimmy Butler requested a trade publicly. I guess I shouldn't say it that way. He said publicly after the game on Thursdays that he doesn't think that he can be happy in Miami, that he can't be happy in the future of Miami. I'm misquoting, so let's just move on. 7 game suspension. Very interested in seeing the context in that, seeing how the franchise came up with 7 games, whether it's 7 games based on that's how long their road their their road streak is the road trip. They have a 7 game road trip. There we go. Or if that's just the total amount of games that Miami uh, could suspend him for. But perhaps it's the former. 7 game road trip, 7 game suspension. No surprise that this was, I guess I'll say immediately, um, filed a grievance by the NBPA, by the Players Association. They filed a grievance. Um, no surprise there. Supporting other players, but also um, perhaps it's to provide more context of why they got to 7 games. And besides Kyrie Irving, of course, I think Kyrie Irving missed 9 games, was it? I didn't write it down. Kyrie Irving missed 9 games as a franchise, as a team suspension, and that's the only other long suspension I can think of by a franchise recently. So, how much of it is a formality? Not really too sure. let's go through both sides of it, I guess I'll say. Because while I think the Heat are more in the right in this, and while the past 2 weeks I've said, it's probably the right situation for the Heat to do nothing with Jimmy Butler, why the situation has been unfair to Jimmy Butler, if at all. I have been hearing quite a few people, whether it's even like commentators during games talking about it, or uh, legacy media, independent media, whatever we want to call it, saying that Jimmy just wants money. And while that could be fair, I think it would be a bit unfair to look at every team situation he has differently. So Chicago didn't want to give Jimmy the max. They traded him. Okay, that's reasonable. I think most players that are 29 years old are going to do the exact same. Why not? Of course. He was a max player at 29 years old. He should have it. Okay? All right. So goes to Minnesota. He's unhappy with Minnesota. A lot of funny stories from podcasts comes out about going on the B team and then yelling "pay me" during practice and all of that. Gets traded. I'm not gonna. None of these I'm saying that Jimmy Butler is completely innocent on, but I'm just trying to walk through the process. Okay, and goes to Philadelphia. Decides not to sign with Philadelphia. Gets a sign and trade to Miami after he very clearly wants to go to Miami. Something that I was very critical on. I mean, at this point in 2019, I can remember exactly where I was when I found out about it. I'm sure I was saying that Jimmy just wanted the money, and hey, like get your money and go live in Miami. And that's pretty nice. No taxes, all of that as well. But they went to the finals in 2020, bubble season, but we're counting it. Went to the finals a few seasons later. So going to the finals 2 times in 5 years, not winning a finals, and of course the expectations for the Heat franchise could be a little bit different. But depending on how you look at it, this has been quite a successful 5 years, minus a championship. You know, really, when you look at Miami not being able to get like Kevin Durant, not being able to get or put in a good offer for Damian Lillard when it came up. So I'm sure Jimmy Butler could have had times where he could have used more help around them. And for sure, the 2 years they went to those finals, that was them being the best they could possibly be. So just overachieving, I guess, would be more fair. If you're not happy with Jimmy Butler not bringing a championship to the Heat in 5 years, if anything, they have overachieved based on how much talent there is within the whole NBA. What should the Heat do? So I think the Heat are 100% expecting Jimmy Butler to return when they arrive back home. If the suspension ends, they cannot extend that suspension. And at this point, if Jimmy Butler loses all that money, it is above $2.3 million for those 7 games. That would be January 17th. So still a few weeks before the trade deadline. A little less than a month. My prediction, and so far all of my predictions have been wrong, but let's do it. My prediction is they will try to move Jimmy. They're trying to do it right now, but we'll bring him back if nothing transpires, and we'll fully um, expect him to be playing. And perhaps it's them saying, Jimmy, we want to trade you. We have to trade you, but you have to go play. And sorry about the suspension. I guess I don't know. I I shouldn't even do predictions at this point because I'm about to do a whole segment of why another prediction of mine was wrong. So, of course, my feeling anytime I see something like this is to end relationships immediately or as soon as possible. I think most of the time in corporate or in business or not just business, because I don't come from the business world. But even in my experiences where I work, um, this is untenable. When it becomes untenable, cut it off. Be done with it. Of course. All right, Jimmy Butler said he can make any team a contender. Of course he can't. It's the right thing to say. I would expect any player in his situation, even though he put himself there, um, to say the exact same thing. I don't think there's any one player that can do that. If you put Jokic on the Wizards, are they a contender? Probably not. So perhaps they're a playoff team, and then who knows? Well, anyways, a different conversation. It's hard to figure out those landing spots. You know, we've talked about the Suns. Suns need to do something. It's difficult. They have one of the worst contracts in the league with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is also one of only two players, the other being LeBron James, that have a no trade clause and just a huge contract. So, do you waive your no trade clause just to be sent to Miami, and then Miami is going to be more likely upset in that situation because they're not getting a player in return that they need. They cannot take a step back on defense to possibly take a step forward on offense. So then what? Kevin Durant gets paid a lot, but is worth a ton still at his age, is on contract through next season. Devin Booker is on a huge contract, and he's your hometown guy. You can't trade him. So I don't know what you do there. Um, a team that's not contending, imagining them trying to go out and get Jimmy Butler when Jimmy Butler is already unhappy seems crazy. I just don't know in this situation. So perhaps we just leave it there. That I really just don't know. Um, but I guess if it could work out, last part I'll say, it could be a multi-team trade that could come up. So, is there a situation where um, uh, Jimmy Butler goes Jimmy Butler goes to um, I don't even know the Grizzlies, or he goes to the Kings, but the Kings that would be kind of the same situation they have now with Fox and DeRozan, or is something crazy like the Spurs try to do something crazy now. I guess there's a situation where you could do a multi-team trade. The Heat get someone like Brandon Ingram, and the money works out somehow. But I haven't gone the trade machine worked it out because I am just at a loss. Um, with the contract, with the player option, Matt Ishbia has apparently come out and said that he would sign Jimmy Butler to an extension on the Suns, but I'm just kind of at a loss of what the whole value is. So we leave it there. Next part. I was wrong about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Man, I'm not really sure at what point I was wrong, but at this point, I'm wrong. And it starts with the Rudy Gobert trade, uh, uh, dealt in 2022. In 2022, he was in the middle of a 5-year, $205 million deal, which goes through 2025. Well, it did. Player option, but he signed an extension this offseason. So, would be a player option next year, but now is going through 2027. No surprise there. Of course, won Defensive Player of the Year last season. I was negative the same way a lot of people were negative on this. It was hard to imagine what Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns were going to look like together. Anthony Edwards was much younger, but at that point, already an idea that he might be someone who is up and coming, could be superstar. Karl Anthony Towns, been there since 15-16. Uh, has had great has had years with great numbers, but it's always been a bit unclear what that fit's going to be. And when they put 7'2" Rudy Gobert next to him, it was even a bit more unclear. And my worry was that um, moving Gobert, which was already surprised that you would give up so many assets for a center in the modern NBA, was that uh, you're going to hold on to Anthony Edwards, and you're just not going to be able to hold on to Karl Anthony Towns. That's the main part that I was wrong on, but let me get to it. Uh, it worked out, is what I should say. That following season, their defensive ranking improved to 10th, while their rating overall went down a couple points. So ranking went up, rating went slightly down. Defense dipped a ton that season, 22-23 to 23rd in the league. Last season, 23-24, they were 16th in offense, and then they were first in defense. Lost in the conference finals, first playoff series win since 2003-2004. Cat was all-star for the fourth time, and as I mentioned, Gobert got Defensive Player of the Year for the fourth time. Wow. So, Karl Anthony Towns goes to the New York Knicks. Julius Randle comes to the Timberwolves. Very surprising, I think. And at the time, I think I said that, well, we have to see Karl Anthony Towns somewhere else, and he gets paid too much, and they can't trade Gobert. At least they got an all-star for Karl Anthony Towns. And that's where I went wrong, I think. Because Julius Randle has been consistent this year. I mean, he's been consistent to where he usually is. He won't get an all-star bid this year with how good it is in the West. But it's pretty clear that the Knicks have won this trade so far. Karl Anthony Towns leading league in rebounds, 14 rebounds a game, 25.3 points per game is his most since 2019-20, 44% from three on 4.9 attempts, and the Knicks are currently third at 24 and 12. Timberwolves are 17-17, which is only slightly below projection. 17-17 is 10th in the West. The West is just too good now. 21st in offense, 8th in defense, 12th in net rating. Anthony Edwards said after a game recently he's been frustrated with the looks he's getting and the double teams and just how difficult it is for him to score on offense. His numbers are consistent. I think he'll be looking towards another all-star bid just below SGA. I wonder if they could look towards trading Randle this offseason. Let's say Randle opts into his player option, which I'm sure he will. They don't offer him an extension, instead they trade him in the offseason because I'm just not too sure what they can do before the trade deadline. So there it is. I was just wrong. I think they just could have stayed course and been one of the top teams in the West, avoided the play-in again. If they were not in the conference finals, or perhaps if they didn't, low expectations for this team, but okay, they won a playoff series for the first time in 21 years. or 20 years, I'll say. Um, okay, stay the course, try to get rid of some other salary, and no matter what, you're going to be in the second apron. With Julius Randle, with Karl Anthony Towns, you're in the second apron. It's just how much tax you're going to pay. That's the owner's fault. That's the owner's problem. Next up, the Thunder have won 15 in a row. And after that, I'll make my case on why SGA should be top of the MVP. Hey, why not? Super excited that they play the Cavs on Wednesday. And I have to make some predictions before that because I think the Thunder are the best team in the league right now. But the Cavs, who are on a 14-game win streak, talk about them next. They might be the best at 31-4. Eighth best record in history at this point in the season. But let's go in order. I'm going out of order now. Thunder have won 15 straight. 5 of their last 6 wins have been by double digits. Their last win was against Boston. They won 105-92. Super, super impressive game on Sunday. They had 5 players in double digits. Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, SGA. Off the bench, they had Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins. SGA got 33 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. He is third in scoring at 31.3 points per game, only slightly. Jokic is at 31.6. Giannis is at 31.5. It's pretty awesome that the schedule worked out, that they get to play Boston on Sunday afternoon, have very impressive win against them, and then now they get to play the Cavs on Wednesday. On the game against the Celtics, Celtics scored 65 points in the first half on 51%, but shot 6 from 22 from 3. Second half, Boston scored 27 points, 8 from 40 from the field, 3 from 24 from 3. 15 of the 27 points came from Jason Tatum. Rest of the team shot 4 for 29. Super impressed with the adjustments that the Thunder have been able to make in the second half. In the last 5 games, the Thunder have trailed by at least 9 points, and in the second half, in those 5 games, they have outscored their opponents 302 to 223. This is the longest win streak for the Thunder since 2012-13, which is 12 wins, but technically the record before that was 14 for the 95-96 Seattle Supersonics. So I'm going to say that they should be favorites, but Cleveland has been very, very good and defeating their teams by even more points, even more. I think when watching or rewatching OKC games, it's just the most impressive part to me is just how they are adjusting and how they are finishing games. It's just I think this team is more engaged on defense than any other team. They have the makeup of a championship team. SGA being in my opinion, top 3, but at least top 5 player at this point. And just everyone, so many players buying in on defense, and at any given night, you might see a different player step up. In the last game against Boston, Lou Dort hit 5 of his last 6 threes and had 14 points in the second half. In the game against the Knicks, Aaron Wiggins, quote unquote, saved basketball, scored 15 points in the fourth quarter against the Knicks, including 4 threes. It was amazing to watch. Yeah. Twitter was going crazy about it. So, what is SGA's MVP argument? And the main statistic that I've seen thrown around, which is pretty amazing, I would have never thought of this one. He is only 4 players that have scored 30 or more points in a 15-game win streak. The other 3 have won MVP. So that includes James Harden, 2018, Steph Curry, 2016, Michael Jordan in 1996. They are first in the West. They are first in defense. And the other argument, and it's an argument that I don't like, is, of course, the voter fatigue. So Jokic, statistically, is having perhaps the second best statistic season of any player ever. His efficiency is at 32.9, or 32.4, excuse me. Second highest in history if the season ended today. Second only to Jokic in 21-22, 32.9. He is very close to a 30-plus point triple-double average. He's currently at 9.7 assists per game. If he doesn't win MVP, this has to be the best statistic, the best analytical whatever season of any non-MVP ever. 8 players that have won 3 MVPs. If he wins 4, he is one of 5, and it gets really, really difficult. It's really big. I mean, at 4, you just have to be in the top 10. I just think you have to be. And in my opinion, this is the best peak of any player I've ever seen ever. What happened? I mean, what has just happened in these past 5 or 6 years? So, very excited to see the Thunder and the Cavs. I'll probably have to replay it, probably be at work during that, but I have to talk about the Cavs because, as I mentioned, they are 31-4. Only 8 teams in history have started this well. The last team to do this are the 15-16 Warriors that started 31-2. They've won the last 13 games by double digits, have won the last 14 in a row. Health and continuity, I think, have been the biggest part of this team's success. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland have only combined to miss 4 games this season, while last season they combined to miss 89 games. Mitchell on his way to his 6th All-Star in a row. He'll definitely be in it. Besides continuity, what else is there? Mitchell and Garland are playing off the ball more, which I think is quite unique when you watch the other top teams in the league. They are 3rd in screen assists at 10.3 screen assists per game. They have the highest offensive rating currently at 121.3. They get a lot of bench production, 19.3 minutes off the bench, which is the 3rd highest in the league, and 3rd highest net rating for the bench at 4.5. Has some of the highest scoring overall coming off the bench in the whole league. Highest efficiency percentage, at 60.4, and have 6 players averaging double digits. So I think I'm going to end it there. It's more than I wanted to do. I am just so excited to see what happens on this Thunder Cavs game on Wednesday. I could be very wrong, as always. I hope that you have a great rest of your week. Next week, who knows? I don't know what I'll be back with, but I'll be back almost same time and same place. So thank you so much. See you next time.